All right, so hello everybody. It's the week 4 feedback video, and so it's been a very interesting week, and so many learners really, I think, enjoying having been stepping through the program and stepping through it week by week, and really sort of walking the journey together, and rather than just rushing through all the content, which has been great.
Sounds
Welcome,
like people are
Richard.
really starting to get the message, Craig.
Yeah, that's right. Because it'd be like saying, "Oh, well, I, need to do some exercise. I'll do it all in one day, and then won't exercise for the rest of the year." It's kind of like you really want to space it out a bit so you can enjoy the benefits of it.
Maybe I'll practice mindfulness tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. But I think really one of the main things that's come up this week is about managing emotions, but in a more mindful way. Not the suppressing and the fighting and the blaming and the criticism, but the ability to stand back and get a little bit of distance from them. And
Yep.
even when we're aware of those times when we overreact, etc., I think the next really mindful thing to do is just to notice, yeah, we're human. We've had an interesting human moment, but not to dive into the next round of default mental activity with ongoing self-criticism, because that just really ties us to it rather than just looking back, noticing, learning from it, and moving on to the next moment.
Yeah. I think it's a really important point, Craig. I remember when I first started meditating, I remember in practicing mindfulness, I used to, like, obviously my emotional reactivity decreased a bit because I wasn't so caught up in all that default mode thinking. And
Mm.
I remember it was a long time ago now, but I remember thinking, wow, if I keep going with this, I'm just not going to have any emotions. I'm just going to be this calm, equanimous, rational person all the time. And of course, that's probably something that a lot of people think when they start practicing meditation and mindfulness. But of course, that's not really the case, is it? And it shouldn't really be the point. I mean, I don't know if I'd want to live like that now that I think about it. I certainly don't have the mood swings I used to have, and I don't get caught up in some of the same thinking. But I also am more able to welcome, as you said, it's just human to have emotions. It's human to have reactions to things. And now I can learn to notice them, and rather than judge them and react to them or get lost in them, it's just something that's happening. And there's a little bit of a sort of distance from them so I can notice them, which is, I think, actually probably better now that I look at it than they're not having emotions at all.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that's sort of like, oh, now I'm mindful. I don't have any emotions. I feel really even, but life's pretty uninteresting now. It's like it's not like that.
I remember reading a story, Craig, actually, that the Dalai Lama was talking and saying how every now and then he just loses it, gets really pissed off and throws something or yells at one of his assistants or something. And I remember reading that thinking, wow, someone who's obviously done that level of meditation still has emotional reactions. That was actually very reassuring for me, because of course despite all the meditation I was doing, I was still having reactions from time to time. I still do actually. And rather than thinking, oh, there's something wrong, I'm not getting it right, it's like, hang on, maybe that is just human.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that the ability to just observe it without being caught up in it, and the ability to move on from it. And I think too, one of the things that many learners have noticed, that little bit of distance has given an opportunity to make more conscious choices sometimes about whether to escalate a situation or whether not to, or even after a reaction, to have a little bit, period of mindfulness to help one to sort of get back, as it were, on an even keel, and not to keep, reliving it, like a metaphor of a horse just pulling back on the horse. And it reminded me of quite an ancient quote from the Katha Upanishad, and it's a metaphor, but I think it's really interesting from a mindfulness perspective. Self, and that's the observer, rides in the chariot of the body. Intellect, and that's, I suppose, our executive functioning. The charioteer, discursive mind or default mode, the reins, senses, other horses, objects of desire, the roads. And it's like the charioteer gets the hands back on the reins, because if we're not connected with the senses or present, then the horses are just bolting anywhere, and it's a pretty hair-raising ride. But when we sort of, just as it were, learn to reconnect with the senses, then we can kind of steer with a little bit more purpose and a little bit more safety, perhaps, too. Yeah. Anyway, that's these notions that we now call mindfulness are pretty old notions. This is not new stuff. And in a way, mindfulness is like getting your hands back on the reins. Self-compassion has been something a number of others have been speaking of as well.
Definitely, and it's not always easy to do, is it? I mean, one of our learners said, "I've been overcome with guilt and self-criticism. How can I ever forgive myself? Because I'm the only one who knows the wrongs that I've done." And it's a really, I think this is part of, again, the human condition that we all screw up and we all have demons or we all have parts of ourselves that we perhaps don't fully embrace and fully love. And it's very easy to get caught up in self criticism and self judgment around that. One of the three ingredients of self compassion, well, I mean, you've got mindfulness, the ability to notice things without getting sort of caught up in them. You've got self kindness, being kind to ourselves, and common humanity.
Mm.
And I think, again, one of the things about COVID is it's shown us our common humanity. And it's important to remember when we're struggling, particularly if we've had some reaction or we've done something that we're not proud of, just to realize that it's not just us. It's when we think that it's us alone that have done that or think that or feel that, and everybody else is kind of normal and okay. And that's what creates that further division, makes us, really unhappy. And if we can realize that, whatever's going on for us, somebody else out of the 7.5 billion people on the earth are probably experiencing that or doing some version of that right now. That can be a really helpful thing, just to remember that interconnectedness.
Yeah. And you see all of this that's gone on in the past, and we can't change the past or wish it was different. I mean, it was what it was. But where we are in the present moment is to make a conscious decision about which direction am I heading in. And so the past often keeps recreating itself in the present. But when we learn to be more mindful, we learn to make more conscious decisions in the present to be heading in the direction that we want to head. So not tying ourselves to the past, but in the moment, moving forward in a much more conscious way. The meditation practice has come up a bit too, and there's been a question around, is it better to practice one long practice or practice lots of short periods of mindfulness
Yeah,
in the
and we
day?
might emphasize long, Craig. I mean, we offered a 20-minute practice to learners this week, and some of them really took it there. Someone said, is it better to sit for 30 or 60 minutes once a day or do multiple shorter practices? So kudos to whoever's trying to sit for 60 minutes a day. I mean, don't overdo it. It's like, remember the exercise metaphor. Don't go run a marathon. You want to work up to it. But it's a really interesting question, and one that certainly the research hasn't answered. We don't know whether sitting, 30 times a day for 1 minute is as good as or the same as sitting once a day for 30 minutes. We just don't know that. At the end of the day, I think it comes down to what we're trying to get from our meditation practice. I mean,
Mm.
I sit personally in the morning for 30 minutes every day, and then throughout the day have lots of little mini meditation breaks and of course try to be as mindful as I can. And that 30 minutes and those multiple little ones, they're quite different.
Mm.
The 30 minutes, I'm seeing really deeply into myself. Things start to calm down. I can start to observe mental habits or, increasingly sort of just like recognize the awareness that's always here. I mean, that's what I'm meditating on now, on awareness itself. And then throughout the day, it's about, well, how do I integrate that? Because, of course, you might have this nice, sort of awakening or this nice insight during meditation. But then if you jump up off the cushion and you autopilot through the day, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
So the longer periods for me are about, really seeing deeply inside. And then those shorter ones are about integrating that and making sure that we reconnect with that throughout the day. So
Yeah.
I think both are really important.
Yeah, because if we're going on a long journey, for example, and you get these major intersections that have got lights and are really well lit and so on, but you're going along the road in between these intersections, if you've got lots of little street lamps along the way, helping to illuminate them, and it's like those bigger practices, but those little practices illuminate the way mindfully throughout the day, and so I tend to recommend both are really important.
It's a great metaphor, actually. I really love that, like a string of lights. So there are moments of darkness, but then there's a period where you can see again. That's
That's right.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and mindful eating has been something else that's been coming up. I practiced a little bit of mindful wine tasting last night and with the virtual wine tasting. And I think that's why people enjoy wine so much or enjoy food if it's being eaten mindfully with awareness and really taste and savor it. And I was just running a program yesterday and somebody said, oh, they could go through a whole block of chocolate and finish it without even noticing that they've.
What a shame. What a tragedy. Whole bottle of wine, whole bottle of chocolate, didn't even taste it.
Yeah. So much better to have much less, but to really taste it and enjoy it if we're going to have it. But I think that's when eating problems often arise, when just eating without actually tasting and experiencing it is just happening on automatic pilot.
Yeah, it's a really important point, Craig, because mindfulness practice, it shouldn't be a chore. If people are sitting there with their meal and thinking, okay, can't watch the TV, I've got to eat mindfully because it's good for me, that's boring, isn't it? And it's not going to be sustainable. But if you notice that when you actually turn off the TV and taste your food or eat that delicious square of chocolate or sip that beautiful wine and fully taste it, that it just increases the amount of enjoyment
Mm.
of that particular experience, that's going to be sustainable. And in the end, that's what mindfulness is about. It's not about slavishly making ourselves be in the moment all the time. It's about living life fully and tasting and experiencing and feeling emotion and being alive. I mean, that's at the end of the day really what this is about. And so once we get that, it's a no-brainer. Why would we live any way other than that?
Yeah. And you see, every one of the senses can be fed while we're eating. I mean, the sight, the color, and so on. And, it's every sense can be fed, as it were, and to really save and enjoy our life. So it's been a very rich last 4 weeks, and fantastic, the sense of community and support from all of our learners. And I'd just like to firstly thank the learners for really throwing yourselves into this course. And I'd also like to thank as well the people that support us in presenting this course, and particularly Sherelle and Liz, who have been mentors on the course, and all the team behind the scenes at Monash who dedicates so much time to making all of this happen. And and we very much welcome feedback. Anybody who's done this course before knows that we really listen to the feedback, take it on board, see if there are things that we can tweak or change to improve it. So we value feedback, step 4.15. And there's also a bunch of further resources and things to read, because we want everybody to not just finish and, oh, well, that's mindfulness, tick that box. It's like, how can you take it forward from this course? And so there's a lot of stuff on 4.13 to give some more resources as well. But
Yeah,
please,
learners might also want to repeat the course. We run it
yep,
all throughout the year next year, as well as our part 2 course, Maintaining a Mindful Life. So for anyone that hasn't done that before, that's about how to bring mindfulness even more fully into your life, into relationships, into bigger issues like, values and ethics.
yeah. So the dates for next year haven't been set yet, but you can certainly go to the course page and add it to your wish list, and then you'll get a notification of when the registrations are open. So thanks, Richard. It's been great working with you again, even from a remote location rather than the studio together. And have a very mindful Halloween, and then summer break for us in the south, or winter break in the north. But thank you to everybody.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, if you've enjoyed the course, please tell other people about it. We live in a really unmindful world. So the more you talk about mindfulness and embody it and share it with the people you care about, I think the better things are going to get. So tell people about the course. Please rate and review us. We'll put some links for places you can do that just to let other people know about it. And of course, if you want to have continued access to materials, get an upgrade so you can always come back to the meditations and the articles and all the resources. But until then, yeah, go well.
Yeah, bye from us.
Happy Halloween. Ah!